Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am Honorable Ben Roland Igbakpa. I represent Ethiopia East, Ethiopia West. By the grace of God, we are from Delta State. Mr. Speaker, the motion is on the need to investigate the collapse of Delta Steel Company DSC. The House knows that Delta Steel Company PLC Onwea Alaja, Udu local government area of Delta State, was built on 173 hectares of land at the cost of 1.89 billion when dollar was 0.06 to a naira, and was built to the flagship of steel industries in West Africa and the Nigerian dream to industrialization, with capacity to provide jobs for thousands of Nigerians. Aware that at the peak of its glory, Delta Steel Complex was a beehive of activities by men and machines, laboring day and night at various units, where blazing fire and thick smoke escaped non-stop under the huge sky of Onwea Alaja town in the course of producing over 200,000 metric tons of liquid steel and supplying materials for inland rolling steel mills at Osogbo, Jos, Katsina, including Ajaokuta Steel. Disturbed and nearly 4 decades after its commissioning, decline set in and the steel giant started in 1982 to totter due to bad government decision and dishonest corporate governance perpetrated by corrupt civil servants, politicians, and Indian businessmen, all at the expense of Nigerian taxpayers and the host communities. And by 1997, all the mills had lain comatose despite decades of funding by the federal government, as a 1 million ton capacitor steel plant built to produce 950 metric tons of billets and 320,000 metric tons of rolled product could hardly produce a single billet, and the foundry unit, which earlier used to produce spare parts for Peugeot Automobile in Kaduna, had long been closed down. Informed that the story in other countries that embark on similar industrial journey with Nigeria that have achieved their full capacity after a few years of operation, such as Argentina, that hit and surprised installed capacity after 7 years, Venezuela after 11 years, Egypt after 6 years, Iran after 10 years, Saudi Arabia after 3 years, India after 7 years, while South Africa hit above 50% after 4 years, and has now become the highest steel producer in Africa. Recalls the controversial sale of DSC in 2004 with BUA International Limited, Dangote Industries Limited, Niger Benue Transport Company Limited, Osaka Steel Company. Mr. Speaker, there's a typo error here in paragraph 5 of this motion. They should remove premium steel and replace it with China Polaris Technology. Paragraph 5, line 2. It's not premium steel, it is China Polaris Technology. They bidded for the company, but the premium steel, which was later granted approval to purchase the company, did not participate in the bidding. Yet they bought the company 5 billion lesser than the highest bidder, which is China Polaris Technology. Also recall that Senate recommended the rescission of the sale of Delta Steel Company, and the individual involved in the corrupt practice surrounding the sale of public enterprise, including Delta Steel Company, should further be investigated by EFCC. Conscious of the fact that EFCC in 2011 arrested 4 senior officials of Global Infrastructure Nigeria Limited in connection with the allegation of sharp practice, till date, no one has been prosecuted. In fact, a human rights group not too long ago wrote Mr. President to revisit and refer the allegation of corruption and abuse of process in the privatization of public enterprise in Nigeria between 1999 and 2011 to Anti-Graft Agency for further investigation. Also conscious that the sales to purchase agreement of Delta Steel Company stipulated that Global Infrastructure will hold 80% of the company shares, while 10% will be allocated to DSC staff and the host community. But BPE, which is Bureau of Public Enterprise, violated this rule by stalling the transaction that could have allowed Udu community to take possession of their minority shares for 2 years. Also informed that in the beginning, Global Steel Holding promised to invest $450 million to double the production capacity of Delta Steel Company to 2.4 million tons per annum in a couple of years. However, the pledge remained unfulfilled till its ownership of the company was revoked in 2008. Meanwhile, the company used DSC assets as collateral to acquire loans of more than 31 billion naira from Nigerian banks that were never paid. Consider that despite the promise by Premium Steel, the new company that have acquired it, even when they did not bid for it and bought it lesser, 5 billion, more than the highest bidder, promised to revive the DSC in a short time. Operations at the plant are yet to begin after 2 years after the purchase of the company, leaving the whole complex deserted except for gun-30 security men who guard the premises. Cognizance that the host communities are worried that the Premium Steel and Mines Limited may use the school, which the community have nurtured and preserved for years, as collateral for loan that may not be repaid, and thereby exposing the school to similar crises that have crippled the steel plant for more than decades. So given that the school were not part of the assets sold to GSA Shell and GINL in the first place, therefore Amcon, an asset management company of Nigeria, should not have handed the school to the new buyer. Resolve, Mr. Speaker, mandate the Committee on Steel and Works to conduct investigation into the sale and the subsequent failure of Premium Steel and Mine Limited to put the steel company into operations, and make recommendation on measures to ensure its resuscitation within the shortest possible time, and report back to the House in 4 weeks for further legislative action. I beg to move, Mr. Speaker.
Respected colleagues, I believe this is a very straightforward motion, and the elaborate nature that has taken to put out all these arguments into the body of motion calls for the amendment